Ladies and gentlemen, Gungans and droids, this is your Grand Admiral Arnold, director of the video gaming division here at the Galactic Empire. And today, I'm giving you a little behind-the-scenes look at what Palpatine and I have been working on for my new command station. We're slowly moving in, but just like I'm giving you a little behind-the-scenes look on what's next for this Grand Admiral, the developers did a little Q&A the other day, where they talked a little bit about the future of Galaxy of Heroes. Questions like Relics, when's the next level increase, when's the next push for mods coming, things like mythic raids, gear crunch, some grand arena stuff, how many characters we're getting for Rise of Skywalker. We're gonna highlight all that stuff in today's video, so ladies and gentlemen, buckle down because you're gonna be in for the ride of your lives. Woo! We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. I know light side territories is on everyone's mind, the gear crunch, all that fun stuff. Developers took a lot of time in this past Q&A on December 4th. I want to make sure you guys got this info in case you don't hawk the forums and all that fun stuff. I want to start up with this right here because most likely that's what I'm titling the video, because this is something that's on people's minds. As this question brings up here, there's this concern that light side territories is tuned for future progression tiers and stuff that's coming to the game to make it more bearable, which kind of seems obvious because as you saw the other day, you need about 12 million GP per person in your guild to master light side territorials, Republic offensive, and they kind of came out saying at least in the next 3 months they do not have any plans to expand relics, level caps, etc. And I don't know if this is also going to pertain to mods and stuff of that sort, because that's their plan, that the next 3 months they're not going to be adding it. But as they show here, the difficulty of light side tier spells is intentional. If you were hoping, as we saw the other day, they canceled Republic offensive because they have to work on some bugs, the difficulty is intentional. That is not bugged. That is working as intended. Now, I don't know how reassuring this answers, because at least, you know, in the next 3 months, they don't plan on having any sort of new progression stuff be added to the game, because light side Geonosis territory battles is supposed to be a long-term piece of content. So in one way, they're kind of dodging the question in regards to what's going to be the next paywall to address this. It seems like they're kind of saying in a nonchalant way that whatever's coming, it's going to be a more of a slow drip type of thing, just like the Sith thread. It took about a year or so to kind of get to a point where you can master the Sith thread. We still have not gotten to a point where you can auto everything to Sith thread, so there's still room for improvement in that regard. And that's kind of the impression I get for light side Geonosis is that it's cool that we're not getting any sort of paywall coming up in the next 3 months at least, but it's going to be something that over time we're supposed to gradually get closer to the point where we're doing it pretty decently at this Republic offensive. We saw a while ago when the relics were introduced in that trailer, we saw a little teaser that there's going to be another level of mods coming. We see the purple 6 dot mod, so it's coming at some point. They're claiming no progression stuff happening in the next 3 months. I don't know if mods falls under this umbrella here. Now, it also kind of seems that Echo might be getting some sort of small touch-up, because if you remember a while ago, when Echo got on his basic, he has this critical damage up synergy, but the problem is there is no clone or character that gives critical damage up. And originally when they said that statement, to kind of hint that there's more to come for the clone troopers, and that kind of gave us the idea that General Skywalker is coming to the game. Apparently during balance testing, as they're showing here, they kind of had to take away the critical damage up synergy, because to be honest, Echo already puts out absurd amounts of damage. Critical damage up would have amplified that even more if you've seen the footage I put out. So they're saying that they're looking into avenues to correct Echo's basic Omega. So who knows, they may be changing it a little bit, just taking out the critical damage up synergy completely and then refunding the Omegas, and most likely you throw the Omegas back on, or they might be slightly touching it up so it does something a bit different, because right now the critical damage up synergy is a wasted upgrade for Echo. So that's something to also point out. If you're working on your clones, there's a chance that they're going to be changing Echo, and it's most likely going to be for the better, because right now it's already dead weight to his Omega. It doesn't do anything for him, so they're probably going to do something where it at least does something, then critical damage up. And more good news right here in regards to mods. Anything below 5 dot mods, just for people in general, in case you don't know, I know mods are probably some of the content that's the most difficult for people to grasp, and the content is probably least engaged because it's very overwhelming, and it looks like they're going to be adding some quality of life stuff in the future, as I'll show you here in a little bit. But anything under 5 dot mods, basically trash. Don't waste your time upgrading. So they're planning on sometime to take out the 4 dot mods and below from the mod challenges. And this is great because when you're starting off with your mod farming for the very first time, if you're the first few tiers, you're not really going to get any 5 dot mods, so you're just kind of wasting energy. So hopefully they're going to bring it to a point where it's just 5 dot mods at the very minimum. Anything below that is just pure and utter trash for the most part. So this is a great kind of thing to see, because since the introduction of mod slicing, 5 dot mods are basically king in the game. Woo! This is gonna be one that probably doesn't make everyone happy to hear, and It's gonna come down to ticky-tacky definitions of how we define easing the gear crunch. And here, probably not the best way to phrase something so controversial when you need thousands of Kyrotechs and thousands of stun guns for players to kind of upgrade their characters and use them unless you spend the big bucks. As we see right here, at one of your recent Q&As, you mentioned there's a plan to ease up on the gear crunch. Was that forgotten, or is that still being planned? And Cyanide, so I believe, is in charge of in-game economy for Star Wars Galaxy. They said they haven't forgotten, and there is more they're starting to plan out in the future, which is good, very vague. But as you see here, the way they define easing up the gear crunch is more mathematically. It's like if there's a 1% change in easing up the gear crunch, in their minds, it seems, they're doing their job. Because mathematically, yes, and logically, you are easing it. But I guess their argument here is what percentage really defines easing the gear crunch? Is it something very logical where just even a 0.5% every couple months is something that's easing the gear crunch? As you see right here, they've added Kairos to the daily activities, which is nice, and the territory war rewards. They reduced the crystal and the shard shop cost of gear 12 and added gear 12 plus. So they've done things to ease it up. How impactful is it? Probably not what we as a community want, but from their perspective, from a monetary and probably from a statistical perspective, they are doing it. Because as they say here, my question back is define easing. I hear easing a lot, but it is very subjective, which it is. It could be a subjective thing. What's easing for me might not be easing for them, vice versa. Mathematically, here's where it comes. We have eased the gear grind, but that doesn't mean that players actually feel the easing. And that's kind of the point. We don't feel it. There's no way of really getting Mark 5 stun guns. Give us a new challenge from Mace Windu that gives out Mark 5 stun guns. They could easily do that, but Mark 5 stun guns, I'm assuming, is a big portion of their revenue that people spend crystals on in the game. They either have to hoard a lot or they spend money physically to get the crystals to buy the stun gun. So they don't want to ease things up like that too much, because that is probably an important bottleneck in their in-game economy to make money. Because at the end of the day, this game is looking to make money, and making sure they create an artificial crunch in their small little world is a way for them to do that. They are genuinely interested in what everyone's definition of easing is, to see if I can somehow help that feeling. What are your guys' thoughts? What defines easing? I gave an example, just having some other ways of getting things like Mark 5 stun guns in a bit of an easier fashion. I don't care that it's cheaper in the shard shop or the crystal shop. It'd be nice to having a free in-game mechanic that gives it out on a weekly basis. Rise of Skywalker content. We know that's coming around the corner. The movie is only, what, probably another 15 days away or something of that sort. And someone asked the question, how many characters are going to be released for the Rise of Skywalker? As they said, they're going to be kind of working on Rise of Skywalker until about February or something of that, I believe. Will there be a variety of new release styles? Marquis Galactic Chase, Legendary Hero's Journey, and Top Hat, the guy who's in charge of leading all this. Less than 10 if you include ships. And some of these characters kind of span movies. Hux is a prime example. So I'm guessing there's probably not going to be too many characters. Probably, I'm guessing five or six characters, maybe 4 ships of that sort. So it's kind of I think kind of on the low end for something of this sort, because usually for things that are kind of underappreciated, like Knights of the Old Republic or the Scoundrels, they kind of push out a lot of character content. Doesn't seem like they're going too hard in it. And this kind of leads us into our next part in regards to reworks. This might leave some people kind of bummed here. The First Order, it's an okay faction. It's a B, C grade faction that can do some okay work, but they're not amazing. I think B's kind of stretching it. You know, if I did my character, my squad ranking video, I kind of put First Order in the Chromium tier, which is kind of your middle of the rung teams in the game, which is an okay team, but it's not doing anything too impressive for us. Someone brought up the question, are they going to be reworking First Order? Things like Captain Phasma not doing too hot. As they say here, reworks take just as long to produce as some of our characters, so we don't do as many reworks as we would like. And what does that mean? They don't make a lot of money off reworks. They're looking to make money. If they have to put the same amount of effort in a new character or a reworked character that people already have, people pretty much, I'd say about 95% of the player base probably has a 7-star Captain Phasma, or at least they could easily get a 7-star Captain Phasma in 1 to 2 weeks if they don't have her. What makes more money? Obviously the former, with creating a brand new character. So this kind of leaves me a bit uneasy, because I love seeing reworks. With regard to First Order reworks, I can't say with certainty that we will tackle reworks anytime soon, but we may decide minor stat updates will be needed. And here's the thing, they planned out the Rise of Skywalker stuff probably several months ago. So it's not like they're going to decide tomorrow. They're going to do reworks and they're going to have it ready in the next month here. Most likely, if they already say that they don't have really any plans to rework First Order, I'm thinking don't expect that to happen. So if you're gearing up Captain Phasma, hoping that she's going to get a rework, or First Order TIE Pod, First Order Executioner, I wouldn't get my hopes up too much, but they are going to be releasing new First Order characters, and I believe they kind of talk about a little bit here. Here's the thing. They're kind of pushing to a point where they don't really need to rework a whole entire faction. They can just release one great character that has a lot of bonuses that really supercharge the faction. Kiarimundi seems to be kind of one of those characters that might be able to revitalize a dead faction into something usable. So maybe expect something out of that from the Sith Trooper as well as Hux. They talked about kind of briefly that they have plans on releasing more units, kind of like the TIE Fighter Pilot, Death Trooper, Star, Kylo Ren on mask, where they have simple kits, but they do a lot of bang for their buck. And it looks like they're going to be doing something like that here. As we see here from CG Miller, General Hux and First Order Sith Trooper have much less complicated kits, but each bring to an overall First Order, bring power to an overall First Order squad. So this kind of makes me feel a little bit more comfortable, although it's going to be hard for free-to-play players to access those characters to bolster their faction a lot more, because there's no reworks coming, it seems like, for First Order. I think that's kind of important, is having at least these characters that juice up the faction. So I guess that's something to look forward to, but if you're playing free-to-play, that might not get you too excited. It's going to be a couple months before you could probably bring your First Order to life. And they have plans to be releasing 2 more capital ships early next year. That could change, of course, but they're going to see how the ship meta changes and then plan future capital ships around that. So if I had to guess, if General Hux is coming to Galaxy of Heroes, I'm almost certain that he's going to get a capital ship with him, and probably Holdo, who is the other capital ship we primarily saw in the whole sequel trilogy. That might be something we'll be seeing as well. So keep your eyes peeled. Not going to talk about this too much. We talked about it quite extensively. The Mace Windu rework. As they say here, I don't want to beat it too much. We've made about 2-3 videos talking about this already, but just to kind of see it in textual form. Long story short, they initially planned to do a Mace Windu rework for the release of Republic Offensive, but they ended up running out of time to do it justice. So as they say here, probably maybe next time they'll get around to it is when the Clone Wars Season 7 comes out. So fingers crossed it's going to happen. I don't want to talk about it anymore because it hurts my heart talking about this every single time. And some new content to talk about. A while ago, there was a data mine in terms of an arcade mode or mythic raids, giving you a lot of content to play in your own or play with your guild, because things like the Rancor raid have gotten really outdated. There's the sim functionality, and usually guilds can quickly master the Rancor raid very easily due to how power creep has escalated over the years. But as we see here, the foundation for arcade and mythic raids last year will serve as the bones for our upcoming content system. Our goal for this feature is to provide you with more solo and guild content more quickly for all players. So, and pre-production for this feature has already started, and we can expect to see something later in 2020. So it's great to see they're working on actual new content that hopefully will give us some fun to play with, because right now in the game there's not a lot to do. The developer said themselves in the podcast they feel that there's not a lot to do in the game, so it looks like they're trying to ramp up and hopefully give us some more stuff next year. And the last thing I want to talk about today is Grand Arena Championship and their rewards. First things first, rewards are very underwhelming for a lot of effort in Grand Arena. Grand Arena is supposed to reward you for really building up your roster, building a strategy, conquering your enemies, and seeing them driven before you. And they do think that the rewards for championship tokens are too little. So they're going to be increasing the amount of championship currency earned through Grand Arena Championships in the following month. And speaking of Grand Arena Championship currency, there's a concern about hoarding tokens because big characters might be added later on, like Darth Malik, the Malevolence, Negotiator, General Anakin Skywalker. In regards to Grand Arena Championship token currency, they've said this before. I want to reiterate it. They said they have no plans of adding characters to the Grand Arena currency rewards. They intend to keep it for now so you can spend your currency on gear. So that's for now. That doesn't mean sometime down the road. I mean, that means that sometime down the road they could change their mind, start adding characters. I will admit, I'm having conflicts hoarding the gear or hoarding the currency. So just in case they change their mind down the road, because they kind of did that for their guild event token store. They kind of added stuff there out of nowhere, which caught a lot of people off guard. I am spending my Grand Arena currency right now just based off of this, but just again, that doesn't mean forever. They will never add characters to the store. They may add characters sometime down the line if they feel like maybe they're adding enough currency in there to support farming a character. We'll have to wait and see on that. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to kind of wrap up the highlight points. I think I want to point out, or this Q&A session, a couple of good things, couple of questionable things, and a couple of things that doesn't really make me too excited, especially that light side terrace battle difficulty. I don't quite know. We have to see how it goes. I will say every single time a new big piece of content comes, like the Sith raid, the Rancor raid, the AAT raid, the dark side terrace battles for Hoth, there's always complaints people don't like, and then eventually people are fine with it and find ways to tackle. Let's hope that's the case as well for Republic Offensive. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Comment down below. Support your empire. Like, comment, subscribe, so you're not missing a thing. I'll see all you lovely people in the next video. Peace out, everyone.